be a good day. Wake up, today's gonna be a good day. Wake up, today's gonna be a good day. Wake up.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the June 21st edition of the Morning Hockey Shot. We are live on Facebook, YouTube, and I believe Instagram for today, which is awesome. It's finally up and running. I am Andrew McDougall. You can find all of my work at andrewkmacdougall.com.au, and we will be looking ahead to Week 10 of the Australian Ice Hockey League as we get right into the thick of things. As we announced last week, or we seen last week across the socials for the Australian Ice Hockey League, finals tickets are live and active. You can buy finals tickets. So we are heading towards the pointy end of the season, and teams are jostling for positions on the standings. I think there's probably a few teams that are set on the standings, probably won't drop out. One team is certainly breaking clear, which we'll get into a little bit later on. And there's one team that sits just outside the top six, which I think, the Adelaide Adrenaline. I'm big on the Adrenaline. I really hope that they can find a way into the top six and the finals this season, because the club and their fans have been waiting so long to get into the finals. It's been a long time. As I wrote in my latest article over on my website, andrewkmacdougall.com.au. If you're here and you're live, drop a comment in the chat and I'll get it up on the screen. We have a big show today. Chris Langille, the commentator for the Perth Thunder, is going to come on shortly. Hopefully we can get Chris onto the show. I actually left the show last week and I thought to myself, a lot of people probably don't know, if you're tuning in for the first time, you might not know exactly who I am. I've been involved in hockey here in Australia for the media side of things, and as a fan. A lot of people know that I am a Melbourne Mustangs fan. That's how I got into the sport. But from supporting the Melbourne Mustangs, I actually studied journalism and got into the media side of things. So for the best part of 15 years, I've been promoting the sport of ice hockey here in Australia on the media side of things for a long time now. Founded On the Fly Hockey from 2010 to 2015, and then co-founded Hockey Hype Australia, which is now a lot of people would know as Oz Hockey Media, and done a lot of different things for different platforms. Written for Fansided in North America, the Inner Sanctum. I wrote about hockey there for a while. Appeared on radio, podcasts, all that sort of stuff, and obviously now got my own platform at andrewkmacdougall.com.au, releasing weekly articles in the blue paint and interviews and features and things like that, and also my YouTube. So I'm hoping to get more into the video side of things with possibly short films or vlogs heading around the country, as I will be traveling up to Canberra and also Perth this season. So hopefully bring a lot of video content around those two rinks and my travels as well, and sitting down with some players and maybe like a day in the life. So things like that. So that's me, just in case people sort of didn't understand or didn't know who I was with the launch of Morning Hockey Shot last week with Jeff Coop. Thanks, Jeff, for jumping on for the first episode. I hope people enjoyed it. For today's show, as we have a look now at what's on the menu. So we're going to go through the standings, a little bit to get through. Hopefully I can get through it all. We're going to have a quick look at the standings. Obviously, as I said, Chris Langille will hopefully be coming on shortly. Also going to have a bit of a chat about goalies, young goalies, as we've seen over the last few weeks, some young Australian goalies really getting opportunity, which I think is awesome. The Melbourne Ice, they're standing alone at the moment. They've made a bit of a gap from first into second, and they're the best team in the competition right now. So we'll have a bit of a chat about that. We'll check out the schedule for this weekend, what's happening with the games. I'll give you my pick of the week. And also, as you can see there on the menu, point number 7, Andrew Hay 300. So a lot of people might not know who Andrew Hay is, and I wanted to throw this in, and I know it's heavily focused on Australian ice hockey here, but this weekend, Andrew Hay will be playing game 300 in the New Zealand Ice Hockey League for the Botany Swarm, and I think that's a massive effort to play 300 games in any sport. So Andrew Hay has just been a stalwart of New Zealand ice hockey and the Botany Swarm, so we'll have a bit of a chat about that later on, and you can drop your comments into the chat and let me know what you think about all of those different topics as well. As we have a comment here from Steve Moyler. Good morning. Good morning to you, Steve. It's very cold here in Melbourne, so I'm guessing it's probably freezing in Canberra at the moment. So we'll hopefully have Chris on soon as well. Hopefully he can get his camera up and going. But as I said, we have a look at the menu here. I'll jump straight into the goalies while Chris gets set up and gets his camera working. And Chris might actually have a thought on the goalies. Over the last few weeks, we've seen Riley White for the Central Coast Rhinos jump in, a young goaltender, get the debut. Last weekend, we've seen Tom Pappas as well for the Melbourne Mustangs get a start in the debut, performed really well, got the win. And also for the Rhinos, I think he got about 5 or so minutes last weekend, was Cooper Peacock in net as well. And I think it's a really good sign because often we think about the Australian Ice Hockey League and we think it's very goaltender, import goalie heavy. And when I look at a league like the Australian Women's Ice Hockey League, which I'm heavily involved in as a play-by-play commentator and covering it, we see plenty of young Australian goaltenders playing in that league. And players like Sasha King, who Chris would know fairly well, I would say, from time in the Perth Inferno. And I've got the Perth Inferno beanie on today just because Chris is coming on. I thought I'd have a bit of a Perth theme. Emma Moonen as well, who played for the Adelaide Rush last season. Players like Michaela Pearce getting real opportunities for the Melbourne Ice and winning championships. So I thought seeing the likes of Riley White and Cooper Peacock and Tom Pappas, I'm not heavily involved in the local coaching scene here in Victoria. But to see players like Tom Pappas come through and players from the Central Coast getting their opportunity to come into the league and perform in the Australian Ice Hockey League and perform really well and hold their own. I think it's great for the competition to see that there's these young goaltenders coming through. And when I think about the 2025 AI season, I think the two Sydney teams not playing as much as that hurts not only the supporters and the players for those teams, but the league as a whole. I think we're seeing a few teams suit up Australian goaltenders this season, experienced ones, but now we're seeing some young goaltenders really get their opportunity in the Australian Ice Hockey League, which I think is really, really cool to see across the entire league. As we see Mandy Ruff in the comments this morning. Good morning, Mandy. I hope you're staying warm as well. I think it's really cool to see these young goaltenders come in and actually get their opportunity and not be overawed by the situation, coming in and looking really, really solid in between the pipes, stopping shots, as we've seen with Tom Pappas last weekend, getting wins, and really not looking out of place in the Australian Ice Hockey League. So I think that's really cool to see, and hopefully we see more of it. Hopefully we see more teams, and I know the Australian Ice Hockey League is the premier competition here in Australia, and I've always said that it's not a developmental league. I think you're there to win, and you're there to win the Goodall Cup, which is one of the oldest trophies in ice hockey in the world. So I don't think you're there to develop players. You obviously want to create opportunities for players to play in the Australian Ice Hockey League, but that development, I feel, should come from down below. And then once they get into the Australian Ice Hockey League, obviously there's going to be coaching and development at that league. But I don't think the Australian Ice Hockey League is there for development purposes. So to see these young players come in and actually stand on their own 2 feet and hold their own in a league that's so competitive. And when I think about players that come from overseas and they come to the Australian Ice Hockey League, it's a league that is, I think, undervalued quite a fair bit. So I think the quality of the league is actually quite good. And some players who they might come from overseas and maybe expect a holiday here or something like that in the sunshine of Australia in certain places. I know we play in winter, but it's still a beautiful country through the winter, and we've got the beaches and places to travel. I think it is undervalued, the quality of the Australian Ice Hockey League. So to see these players step in and really perform well is a really good sign for the sport here and ice hockey, that we can see these young goaltenders come in, because we've obviously got players like Anthony Kimlin at the Mustangs, who is very experienced and a veteran. You got Alexi Toivonen over at the Perth Thunder, Alex Tetro as well in the competition. Goaltenders like that. Up in Brisbane, you got Dornbus, who's performing absolutely unreal this season. So you've got these experienced who have been around for a little while now in the league, these experienced goaltenders. But I think it's great to see these young goaltenders come in and really, really perform. So hopefully that is a good sign to come. And we have years and years of young goaltenders coming out of Australia. As we see, we've got Steve Moyler in the chat as well with a comment. Having development pathways for young goalies is a big issue from early days juniors right through to AI level. That doesn't surprise me, Steve. It really doesn't. And hopefully it does get better, because we definitely need to have young, strong goaltenders in Australia coming through and playing and getting meaningful minutes at AI level. We can't just keep relying on these imports to come in. And obviously there's a correlation into the national team as well. If we're getting these young goaltenders to get experience at AI level and then holding that number one spot, it's only going to be great for the national team through world championships, etc. So hopefully it's an issue, Steve, that we can continue to get better at, and we can see these young goaltenders come through the system, which would be fantastic. So that's the last couple of weeks with young goaltenders. I think it's outstanding to see these young goaltenders come through. I think Chris is ready to go, sitting in the background there. I know it's early over in Perth there for Chris, but I'll bring Chris in and we will get started with today's guest. Chris Langille, welcome to the Morning Hockey Shot.
Hey Dukes, how's it going?
It's good, mate. Thanks for jumping on. I know it's nice and early there. I think it's just after 7 a.m. Over in Perth. So I appreciate you getting on so early.
Yeah, anybody that knows me knows I'm not much of a morning person. So but for you, man, yeah, it's a pleasure.
I feel blessed. I
got my Tim Hortons going, so
beautiful. Yeah, I've got my coffee here. So people who are watching, hopefully they're kicking back with a coffee and listening to some hockey talk. I was just talking about goaltenders, and I think it's great that we've seen a few goaltenders this season getting some action and getting some minutes. What have you seen over there in Perth in terms of goaltender development and goaltenders coming through the system?
Look, it's always a struggle with developing goaltenders in Australia with the limited ice time that we have. We got a couple of young guys that are developing. Dylan Dewar, who's traveling with the team this year as a backup. Marcus Henderson, another young fellow, Taj, who plays with us in the Premier League, is looking like he's developing nicely. It's really tough getting enough ice time and enough decent competition in order to develop goaltenders. And a name probably familiar to Newcastle fans, Don McDonald, who's based over here in WA now. He's been a bit involved, and he's been a very strong voice and proponent for local goaltenders, as we've seen on a couple of social media posts. So, I think the future is positive, but your comment that traditionally the import goalies, the goalies for the AIHL have traditionally been imports, and they've relied heavily on imports to tend the cage is very, very true.
Yeah, it's probably that balance, I suppose. Hopefully we can find a balance between imports and Australian at some stage in the AI. I know in the ADub there is a no import rule for goaltenders, which we've seen the development sort of spike with young Australian women goaltenders. You're obviously on here because you are the Perth Thunder commentator, bringing us all the scenes from every game over there across the weekend. The Perth Thunder, they're a team that I'm big on, and I've been big on them for a while, and I think a lot of people are. They've suited up a team that has been very competitive. And when I've spoken to Ben Bro over the last couple of years, they want the cup. Like they really want the cup, and they believe they can get the cup. What do you think is been the dip in the form this season? They did start off 4-0, look really good. The last 10 games haven't got the results that they wanted.
Yeah, well, certainly the start of the year, everybody struggled a bit with the national team players away. Perth had 5 players away, including their number one goalie, Lexi Toivonen. And yet they won the first 4 games of the season, two against Newcastle and 2 against Canberra here at home. I think one of the things that, and then it took a while to get the imports in place and so on. But one of the things that has probably affected them a little bit is some of the local players that aren't playing. Zane Jones and Billy Tenesalmi, they've taken a bit of a a pre-scheduled leave mid-season, so they're not available for a few weeks. That's had a significant impact. Jamie Woodman and John Kennedy Jr. they've both just had their wives have had babies, and so they've been a bit out of the loop. So we've missed 4 significant cogs in the Thunder lineup for the last little while, and the new imports are very good, and they've really obviously stepped up. But they're still getting into the flow of AIHL hockey, and so I think there's a bit of a challenge there with the personnel. And then the young guys coming up that will be traveling this weekend are, they've proven themselves to be solid additions to the team, and trying to work into the lineup as the season goes along. So I think recently that's been part of the probably part of the little downtime. I think they're 3-6 and 1 overtime loss in their last 10. And they've struggled a little bit just getting connected on the ice and making plays and keeping the puck out of the net.
You mentioned Tenesalmi as well, and I think Tenesalmi was sort of a player that sort of seemed to come out of nowhere, and just popped up into the AI and the Thunder. Exploded out of the blocks, and is just one of those players that you really enjoy going to the rink and watching. And I believe. Is an Australian citizen, if I've got that correct.
He's got his permanent residency, which took a long time. So he was in Perth and playing in the local sort of beer leagues from Finland. Really, really good player. To me, one of the better, if not the best, defensive forwards in the league from the penalty kill perspective, and throwing in some offense as well, and a big body. I mean, so he was sort of sitting in the weeds over here and playing the local beer leagues. A Finland national, took a while to get his permanent residency, and that finally came through over the summer. And so now he's a full resident, and it means that Perth can splurge on that extra import as well.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, how big is that for the Thunder to have someone like Tenesalmi not being as part of that import core roster core, I suppose.
It's huge. It gives them flexibility, and that coupled with the ability to have a resident goaltender, a permanent resident or a citizen goaltender in the pipes allows Thunder to add, say, that offensive defenseman and the quarterback on the power play that the two defensemen that they brought in really do have that control of the play on the ice. So it's huge, and that coupled with Zane Jones as well, who also came over to Perth last year, and that makes a big difference in terms of the flexibility for how they choose the imports, and can be very selective in that matter.
I am here with Perth Thunder commentator Chris Langille. If you've got a comment for Chris, chuck it in the chat and I'll get it up on the screen, and we can hit a few comments at Chris. Yu Hikosaka is the points leader for the competition, known around as Mr. Showtime. I don't know. I don't even know where that come from. I'm trying to think about where that come from, that nickname. But came into the competition last season, was outstanding.
Yeah.
Are you surprised at the extra level when you look at the points total from last season and how excited it was to watch you last season? Smashed it out the park already compared to last season. Are you surprised at the jump from Hikosaka this season?
No. Yeah, you could see it. He's got that skill level, the speed, and can really move the puck, and he's got a wicked shot. The last couple of games, though, he has kind of struggled on the one-timers. He's missed a few one-timers off the side, and I think he also probably misses his partner in crime, Benji Berard, as well, who's as you know, he filled in as an import. His visa ran out at the end of April, so he wasn't eligible to play for the full year. But he's left Perth, and when he left, he was the second leading scorer. So that combination really made a big difference. But he's just a top skill guy. I mean, he did play for the Japanese national team, who were, filtering back and forth between Div 1A and the top flight of world hockey championship competition. So as advertised, and a really nice guy too, nice guy to have a chat with, and I think he fits in very well with the team. And that's part of the thing. And that's as I think you mentioned or alluded to, that the imports, when they do come over, it's not just about coming over and partying and having fun in the sun. They're contributing to the team and the hockey community as well.
Do you think that the Thunder are set up, because we've seen across the weekend last weekend, the trip to Melbourne, that you actually didn't, one of the rare times that you didn't score a goal across the weekend. Do you think the Thunder are set up well enough? And you've obviously got players that will be coming back, like you spoke about, Tenaselmi. Do you think that they're set up well enough to go for a deep finals run if Hugh isn't firing on all cylinders?
I think there's enough offensive talent that they can still make a run, but obviously he makes a huge difference. And I mean, hockey's a team game. It's not like, some other sports where the superstar can drive the play and run the floor. Like, for example, in basketball, it's a lot easier for one player to dominate just because they're out there for 40 minutes of the game type thing. Whereas in hockey, it's truly a team game, and that one guy can't make that huge of a difference. Although I know Dave Booth in Melbourne's trying to make a big difference, the way he's come on gangbusters. But we'll leave that for another time and another discussion.
He's started off on fire, been electric. When I look at the Thunder team as well, I really love the physicality and the way they play. I feel like they play on the edge. Sometimes they might step over the edge. You get a lot of fans especially opposition fans, obviously, that get a bit grumpy about the way the Thunder play. Do you think they toe the line quite well, or do you think they slant one way to the other? Because I enjoy the way Perth play, and to me, like, that's hockey when I watch Perth play.
Yeah. Look, they've got some real character guys, and I mean, Colby Johnson coming on board. I mean, he's always on the edge, but I mean, you can just tell he loves the game, the way he plays. He's one of the guys. He's been coming out for some extra ice time and skating with our Premier League team that Coach Dave Ruck and I coached together, along with Graham Hyde, and so he and Jake Hamilton have both come out just to add to the competition level. But I mean, those guys are solid guys. Hamilton is another one. He's not huge, but he's a good solid size. And Roach on the back end, I mean, he could blow guys up, but he does tend to hold back a little bit. But and then you got the locals like Al Punler, who's never afraid of a big hit. They really do have to watch, as you say, that fine line between physicality and just a bit of over exuberance, a bit maybe of an overreaction at times in retaliations, and those are the things that kill you when players are physically, you love it, but when they just cross that line and they get a bit too reactionary retaliation, yourself, the referees always call the retaliation penalties. Zane Jones as well, when he's in the lineup. Ville, same thing. Coach Ben Bro, I've seen him throw some pretty solid hits too over the years, and for all his offensive skill and flair, he's definitely a solid player. And even the young guys, Jake Ruck likes to get stuck into it, and for his size, Yannick is always Lodge is always in the middle of it, and his brother as well. All those guys they don't shy away from the physical play at all.
I am here with Chris Langille, the Perth Thunder commentator. If you have a comment, please drop it in the chat. We have Mandy Ruff saying, "Good morning, Chris."
Hi, Mandy.
Alexi Toivonen was a big signing from Canberra to Perth. How has he fit in to the to the Thunder lineup, and I suppose into the culture as well. It's obviously, we spoke about, it's not all on ice stuff. It's a lot of the off ice stuff as well. How has Alexi fit into the Thunder, and how have you seen his season?
He's fit in very well, and you know, he makes key stops. Like any goaltender, you're only as good as the 5 guys in front of you. And sometimes I think the 5 guys in front of him have let him down. Defensively, making plays that I'm not going to name names, but muffins up the middle for goals that we've seen recently that you just can't do in this game, and the guys realize that. But in terms of culture, I mean, I think this is a really good team, if I can use that double word, in that they all get along very well. There's no conflicts. The boys hang out. They really do like each other and play for each other. And I think, you know, it anytime you get new personalities into the mix, it always takes a while to settle into that mode. But to me, they're all character guys, the imports and the locals as well. I mean, you got the guys that have been there for a while, like Jordy Kairos and Kieran Webster's and Lyndon Lodge and who else am I missing on that lineup that all contribute to it. But the imports that come in, and that's, any team will tell you, that's the key in the Australian Ice Hockey League, is having quality guys come in on the import side of things as well, that don't just want to be there for a party, that want to be there to contribute and help the local guys develop as well.
Yeah, absolutely. We have seen a few imports over the years from different clubs come in and either not last a season or not fit in because of those reasons. Yeah. We do have Steve Moyler in the chat as well. A little bit off topic, he says, but is there potential for Perth to follow on from Canberra and perhaps look at a bigger facility going forward? I would love to see it. I know you had a bit of a giggle there, Chris, but it would be great to see across the country teams moving out to bigger facilities and full bowls and things like that. What are your thoughts on potential?
Come on, what's wrong with Perth Ice Arena? Excuse me. I'm just getting over a cold, honestly. You know, as we say at Perth, at least we're playing hockey in Perth. You know, like, we've got a beautiful facility down south of the river in the Coburn Ice Arena. Unfortunately, the construction of the rink is a bit difficult for AIHL hockey, and the number of capacity of fans is probably not there for AIHL hockey. Look, that's something that's been, every hockey person in Perth has talked about a new rink. And I've you know, being the engineer that I am, I've drawn up plans even of what I see as sort of the ideal facility. But you know, there's this little thing called money, and being a niche sport in Australia, you know, we don't have a lot of clout in convincing local politicians that, hey, an ice rink is what you need in your community. So that's always the challenge. So absolutely, it's on the backs of everybody's mind to have a beautiful facility that the Thunder can, and the Adrenaline and the para ice guys, they can all play out of and you know, have a true hockey rink experience.
Yeah, absolutely. The pockets aren't very deep when it comes to hockey here.
Yeah.
If I've got this correct, is Riley's your son? Is that correct?
Yeah.
I had a thought this week, and what's it like being a commentator and commentating your son out there on the ice?
Look, I don't get to watch him because I'm so focused on the game, and the place that we call the game from in Perth is way up in the corner, in the top of the stands. It's a very poor location for calling it, seeing the ice. We can't even see the side of the ice that's close to us, and we do have a monitor, but it's about 2 seconds delay. So calling Riley, I just try and call it as I see it, and try and ignore the fact that hey, he's my son. But I mean, he's really probably the only reason that I am watching and attending as much Perth Thunder games as I am. I mean, I started this sort of when he started playing for them, and before that, we were coaching and playing, and they often had games at the same time as Thunder games, so we would rarely get to go to the Thunder games. So yeah, it is a challenge, but I enjoy it. I really enjoy it. Just every time I call his name, I mean, I've been doing it since 2017 Ginsburg here in Perth, and then 2019 DeFries, and then 2022 Tange. And anybody that knows me, you can tell whenever I call his name for goals, and he scored a lot of goals in those tournaments, my voice kind of chokes up. And it even happens in Thunder games whenever he scores. So we're waiting for the first goal this season. He's got a bunch of assists, but it's fun to watch him play, and it's fun to call the games that whether he's in them or not, it's fun to call the games.
Yeah, I think it's fantastic. We've got plenty of families that are connected throughout hockey, and brothers like the Trinkers and the Hughes and the McDowells and all that sort of stuff. So I think
the whole bit.
Yeah, I think it's great. Before I let you go, this weekend, the Thunder they'll travel to Central Coast and Newcastle.
Yeah.
I feel like the Thunder, they're pretty much set for finals, but it's just positioning in that top six. How big is it for the Thunder this weekend to get back on the winning road and try and push for? I'm not sure if the ice are catchable now, but to get that second spot.
It makes a huge difference in such a short weekend finals tournament when you have to play the play-in or semifinal coming in against the fifth and sixth place teams. Got to turn around the next day and play the semifinal in order to make it into the final. It for such a short weekend and fairly intense competition, it does make a difference. And you could sort of tell that last year. We were at the finals last year, and you sort of tell that last year when they played the first games. It takes a lot out of you in that short level. And so I think it's huge if they can get that second place. And they really have to start today, this weekend. They can't take Central Coast lightly. Despite the standings, they've got a couple of young fellows, the Kuleshov brothers that can put the puck in the net. We know that. I don't have a lot of detail or background. I know they picked up a couple of the Ice Dogs and Bears players that filled in the ranks, and I don't know a lot about their imports. So it could be a totally different game. And then the game against Newcastle, and Newcastle's only 3-4 points behind them in the standings. And so that's always a challenge. Ethan Hawes back on defense and the imports there. They've got a tough team. And I know talking to the coach last time they were in town, the first two games of the season, they're looking to make some noise this year too.
Yeah, absolutely. And the North Stars have got the adrenaline clipping at their heels as well, trying to get into that top six. So they'll be ready to play. So it should be a really good weekend of hockey between the Thunder and the Rhinos, and the Thunder and the North Stars as well. Chris, I've probably kept you longer than I initially said I would. I know it's early over there, but thanks so much for jumping on and having a chat about the Thunder and having a bit of a laugh about Perth Ice Arena as well.
Well, look, I don't want to make fun of the Perth Ice Arena. It's home, and I love it. I mean, I still play 3 times a week, so it's and the guys there are really good. So I don't want to make too much of a thing there. The ice does tend to cut up pretty good, and I know the boys that come here. That's what I always tell them. At least we're playing hockey in Perth. So.
Absolutely. I'll be in Perth for the final round of the Thunder's game at the end of August. So I look forward to catching up with you and saying hello. And
absolutely. Yeah, I caught up with Gord good enough at the finals last year for the first time. So it's always good to catch up with fellow broadcasters, and I think it's really important that we communicate back and forth as we do through our Aussie Hockey Broadcasters Facebook page that we've set up, and just to get things like pronunciations of players' names and so on right. So it improves the quality of the broadcast, I think, and it's something that's really near and dear to my heart in terms of moving things forward. So it'd be good to catch up when you get here.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. Absolutely. I look forward to it. Enjoy the rest of your morning. Thanks for jumping on. I know it's nice and early over there for you. It's about 7:30. Enjoy the rest of your day. You might end up going back to sleep
Nah, not now. I'm all ready to go.
Go out to the ice ring and hit a few pucks around.
Yeah. Getting ready to watch the game. That's what my Saturday is. Plus, other stuff. All right, mate.
All right, mate. Thanks for jumping on.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me. It's been a real pleasure.
There he goes. Chris Langille, the Perth Thunder commentator. A great insight into the Thunder season so far and where they sit in their roster and the rest of the season going forward. And obviously they're going to get a boost when they have the likes of Zane Jones and Ville Teneselmi come back, who I'm a big fan of. Teneselmi, I think he's a fantastic player. And that'll put some scoring and points on the board as well for the Thunder going forward. But it is a big weekend for the Perth Thunder as they head across from west to east, and they face the Rhinos and the North Stars over the next 2 days. We did have a comment here from Steve Moyler as we're talking to Chris about the rink, and Steve mentioned about what's happening out of AEST Arena, excuse me, and perhaps about a bigger facility. Is the part-time rink the short-term way forward? I think in an ideal world, Steve, it would be, but whether or not every club or every state can find, I suppose, the equipment to set up these part-time rinks throughout the country, talking about boards and glass and everything that goes into it, all the background stuff to actually building the rinks, whether or not the clubs and associations have the means to get all this stuff. I think it would be great to see part-time rinks pop up, because I feel like we mentioned it, I think last week with Jeff Cooper, how the AEST Arena has maybe nudged a little bit the state government to invest in that new facility and get it built. Just from having that part-time rink set up at AEST Arena and seeing what it can do, and bring in people. As we've seen, sold out games, pretty much every single game out of AEST Arena. So the appetite is there. If people build it, as I say, people build it, they will come. And I really believe that. And I think Perth is the same. I think they really love their hockey over there. We see not just the Thunder, as I mentioned earlier, the Perth Inferno, they have a packed barn as well out at Coburn Ice Arena where they play out of. So there's 2 rinks over there at Perth. It'd be great to have a part-time one with a full bowl and glass and all that sort of stuff. It would be really cool, which would hopefully push state governments, etc., to invest into building a proper facility with maybe a couple of ice sheets, etc. As we look at the menu for the rest of the program, hopefully we can get through it all. We did mention earlier about the ice standing alone. They have really, really shot out to a strong lead now at the top of the standings, the Melbourne Ice. They sit on 38 points across 15 games, the Melbourne Ice. If we have a look at the standings now, bring it up on the screen. The Melbourne Ice have played 15 games. They sit on 38 points. The Lightning have played 12, and they are on 25. So we'll get into the schedule soon, but it's a big weekend for the Lightning. Mustangs are 13 games played, 22 points, and the Thunder rounding out that top 4 on 22 points after 14 games played. I think the Thunder will spike a bit once they get some players returning. And then the bottom 4 is a bit of a separation between 4th and 5th with the North Stars and the Thunder. As I said, the Adelaide Adrenaline are nipping on the heels. But when I look at that standings, I think it's quite clear now that the Melbourne Ice, who still have not lost in regulation, they are standing alone now, and they have shifted out from the rest of the pack. So they've separated themselves as the number 1 team in the competition, the informed team, firing on all cylinders this season, the Melbourne Ice. So if we look at as well, the Melbourne Ice have got 3 players within the top 4 for the points for the season as well. So Colton Schindel, Mackenzie Caruana on 27 points, Joachim Erdogan on 26 points as well. And you would feel after the first few games that David Booth has played for the Melbourne Ice that he will slowly or quickly, I suppose, shift into that top 10 for points as well, because seems to put up points like nobody's business. We'll shift over now to the schedule for this week, week 10. As we did talk about with Chris, the Perth Thunder will play today against the Central Coast Rhinos at Erina Ice Arena on the Central Coast. That's a big game for the Thunder. The Melbourne Ice and the Brisbane Lightning, as I just mentioned, 1v2. They'll play a doubleheader this weekend, today and tomorrow. So that's a big clash. The Melbourne Mustangs, they'll face the Newcastle North Stars today, and then they'll go to Central Coast tomorrow and play the Rhinos at Erina Ice Arena. And the Thunder will shift over to Newcastle and play the North Stars, which could be an absolutely massive game for both teams, depending on how today's results go. The North Stars, as I mentioned with Chris, the adrenaline are nipping at the heels of the top 6. So if the North Stars can't get results this weekend, and Adelaide return to the fixture next weekend, it's going to set up some really enticing contests. My pick of the week, though, is the Melbourne Ice and the Brisbane Lightning. I feel like these two teams, and I did mention it in a comment. I'm trying to think about where I mentioned the comment, but I did mention the comment during the week somewhere that I feel like it is the Lightning's biggest test this weekend. Obviously, they're playing the best team in the competition, who sit number 1, most in form, can put up big scores, the Melbourne Ice, but they are sound defensively as well. Obviously, they got Ashida in goal. But I feel like this is a test for the Lightning to see how good they are. So the Lightning have had really good home form. They travelled to Canberra last weekend. They split the weekend at AEST Arena, which I think if you're any team in the competition, if you can split travelling weekends and then hold firm at home and pick up your wins at home on home ice, it really puts you in good stead for the season. So the Lightning will be rapt to go to Canberra last weekend and get a split against the Brave at AEST Arena. But I feel like this weekend is a big test for the Brisbane Lightning to show where they are and to get a gauge on how good are the Brisbane Lightning. Obviously, we know how good the Melbourne Ice are. They were good All-Cup finalists last year, and the Brisbane Lightning, who, although they make finals and they haven't got to that good All-Cup final stage yet, they're really building over the last few seasons, and they've put together a really solid team this season. And I feel like their defensive side of things is improving, and I'm a big fan of Miko Rippon and Neil Pretorius as well on their defensive end. It's a big test for the Brisbane Lightning this weekend to see where they stand overall. If you've got a comment, drop it in the chat. Let me know what you think. But that's my pick of the week. The Melbourne Ice against the Brisbane Lightning, 1v2. It's probably an easy choice, and it's probably not one out of the box or anything like that. But I just feel like it's in the scheme of the season. And obviously, yeah, as I said, we know how good the Melbourne Ice are. This is a big test now for the Brisbane Lightning and where they sit and where their season's going to head. If they walk away with 0 wins from 2 games, then it's going to raise even more questions about where the Brisbane Lightning stand. And maybe it's just a case of the Melbourne Ice are just too good. We will see starting today. And then tomorrow, the back-to-backs. We have a comment from Andrew John Egan in the chat. Bris Vegas are good, but good form check coming here. I totally agree. This is the big test. Totally agree with Andrew John Egan. I think the Brisbane Lightning are a good team, but the Melbourne Ice, they are the benchmark at the moment this season and have been all season, not losing in regulation. Could the Brisbane Lightning give the Melbourne Ice their first loss in regulation? We shall see later on today. Puck drop is at 4:45 p.m. For the Melbourne Ice and the Brisbane Lightning. The final topic that I've got today that was on our list, on our menu today, it's outside the box, I suppose, in terms of what this show is about. It's heavily focused, obviously, Australian ice hockey, and I really hope to carry, this morning hockey shot into the Australian Women's Ice Hockey League every Saturday morning as well, throughout the summer when the A-Dub returns, and getting some guests on. But I wanted to highlight this because I did see a post, and I have got the graphic here from the Botany Swarm. I did see a post here from the Botany Swarm on their Facebook page highlighting Andrew Hay, who this weekend, Sunday, 22nd of June 2025, will play game 300 in the New Zealand Ice Hockey League. And I do believe that is the first player in the New Zealand Ice Hockey League to play or hit the 300 game milestone. If you've got a comment about Andrew Hay, if you've watched the Botany Swarm, I know a few Australians who would have travelled across to New Zealand and watched a few New Zealand Ice Hockey League games over there. I'm a big fan of the New Zealand Ice Hockey League. I sat down and watched the Stampede and the Red Devils last night live on YouTube. So if you want to check out the New Zealand Ice Hockey League, check it out. They're live on YouTube. We did have the Tasman Champions League, which I know Andrew John Egan, who was just in the chat, attended that back in the day between the top two teams of the Australian Ice Hockey League and the New Zealand Ice Hockey League. So people might have got a glimpse at Andrew Hay across the journey. But I just wanted to highlight this just from, I suppose, a holistic hockey point of view of Andrew Hay and what an accomplishment it is for someone to play 300 games. I feel like no matter what competition you're playing in, but to play 300 games in a competition like the New Zealand Ice Hockey League is absolutely outstanding. Been a captain, play for the New Zealand national team on multiple times, but just been an outstanding 20-year career for Andrew Hay over in New Zealand for the Botany Swarm, for the national team. Been absolutely outstanding. And I just wanted to highlight that this morning before I signed off from this edition of the Morning Hockey Shot. So congratulations to Andrew Hay, everyone associated with the Botany Swarm. I hope it's a really good celebration of Andrew Hay's career. And hopefully he's got many more games to come. I don't know Andrew Hay. I don't know the ins and outs of what's happening there at the Botany Swarm and Andrew's career. But hopefully it doesn't end here at 300 and we can be celebrating 350 at some stage for Andrew Hay. That'll do it. We've got through everything that I needed to get through. Just under 50 minutes. So it's a little bit longer than I actually planned to have these hockey shots go. But I feel like it's really good to get an insight from people like Chris Langille and the commentators and the media people. And I have got an administrator locked in a couple of weeks, and I've got an awesome guest next weekend. So hopefully the Morning Hockey Shot is hitting the mark on a Saturday morning just to get your juices flowing for the Australian Ice Hockey League and the weekend to come in the games. So drop a comment in the chat. I can get them up on the screen before I sign it off. But we are live on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram every Saturday morning at 9 a.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. I've got the Instagram up and running today, which is awesome. You can check out on the YouTube as well. I will be clipping up these episodes with the guests. So if you don't want to listen to me ramble, you can jump over to YouTube, and the episode just featuring Chris and the interview with Chris will be available on YouTube as well. Steve Moyler in the chat. Well done, Doogie. Thank you, Steve. I think it's cool to have a show that's a little bit different and just getting insight from the main players, as I call them in the game, the commentators, etc., who commentate every single week, and they cover the teams, and they've got a really unique insight on what's happening with their team, and just getting them to focus and talk about their team, not so much as the league as a whole. So each week I'll have someone different from a different team having a chat and getting a bit of an insight from them. So thank you for the comment, Steve. You can find all of my work at andrewkmacdougall.com.au. Please hit the like, follow, or subscribe wherever you are watching this, and you can keep up to date. I do have graphics and articles and stuff like that I release as well, and video content when I'm out at the rinks. I'll get some video content of goals, etc., and I'll take a few photos as well and chuck them up on my socials as well, doing everything I can to promote the sport of hockey here in Australia. So please share it around. It's good for the algorithm. It makes my platform grow and Morning Hockey Shot grow as well. There is also a link on my website as well, and you'll see it on the side of the screen. If you go to my website, you can donate to support me and my platform just for the simple price of a cup of coffee. It goes a long way just to covering costs and things like that to bring hockey to your ears and eyeballs every single week. But that'll do it this weekend for me. I am Andrew McDougall. This is the Morning Hockey Shot. We will be back next week, 9 a.m. same time, Australian Eastern Standard Time, with an awesome guest next week. I think you're going to enjoy next week's show. We've got it locked in already. But until then, enjoy your hockey. If you're getting out to a rink, if you're watching an AI TV, as I said last week, if you are playing, have a great weekend. I am playing tomorrow, which I'm looking forward to. But enjoy your hockey. This is the Morning Hockey Shot, and I'll speak to you next week. Bye.
Step 1, wake up early, gonna rise with the sun. Step 2, get some food in you. Step 3, think real hard about what you wanna be. Step 4, everybody just do your thing.
Wake up, today's gonna be a good day. Wake up, today's gonna be a good day.